Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, and happy late Indigenous Peoples Day slash his name that shall not be spoken day. Sorry for being so late.
Why would you even mention him? We were having a good
I didn't say the
time.
name. I did not say the name, and I will not say it.
Thank you.
At least not in this video, anyways.
Yes. Spoilers for things happening next month. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So for today, excuse me, Egg and I will be talking about one of Marvel's few attempts at creating a Native American superhero, the newest iteration of Werewolf by Night, aka Jake Gomez.
New Wolf Rising.
Yep, it was released in 2020 and is written by Jaime Luis Gomez, otherwise known by his stage name Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas, and co-written by Benjamin Jackendoff, aka B. Earl, with pencils by Scott Eaton, as well as a minor contribution by Jeffrey Berger for issue 2, a Native American artist. Represent Brother, inks by Scott Hanna, colorist Miroslav Merva, letterer BC's Joe Sabino, and the obligatory Indigenous consultants, Vince and Dolores Schilling, as well as J.C. Shelton Jr. So, to give a brief synopsis for this short but ever so sweet comic, a new werewolf by night is prowling the American Southwest, but all is not as it seems. Young man, a family curse, and an unholy experiment proved a dangerous combination for a small town in Arizona. All young Jake wants is to protect his people, but who will protect him from the monster within? Jake soon finds himself in way over his head, and the law and Red Wolf are closing in. With his entire life in chaos, Jake's only way out may be to fully embrace the secret history of the Werewolf by Night.
Rawr.
Yes, very cool. So before we give our overall thoughts and opinions about this comic, I feel like we need to get this whole subject matter about werewolves and their relationship to Native Americans out of the way, and briefly talk about skinwalkers just a little bit. I mean, we are Navajo, and I feel like it would be disingenuous if you didn't at least mention it.
And yes, we are recording this in daylight. Don't at us.
So, you want to go first?
Okay. So we all know the long history with werewolves, at least in the European fashion. Man become animal, fully embraces animalistic sides, go rampaging in the French countryside somewhere, yada, yada, yada. We've been there. We've seen that. We've done that. We wish it would have stayed that way. Of course, we know with any history of colonization, imperialism, and justification for slaughter/genocide, the werewolf and the American Indian, or the savage, as they once called us, end up developing some kind of form of relationship through literature, and I'm going to call it Westerns, basically. Though, to save us all from the diatribe and ridiculous rooted racism of the original connections, we can focus more on more modernistic takes, if you want to call it that, such as, of course, the ever famous Twilight.
Infamous.
In which,
Not famous, but infamous. At least in our community.
definitely, in which a Mormon white woman wrote a pack of werewolves led by elders, God, of a made up, not even a made up tribe, because she actually did name a real tribe who are now living like the long legacy of that bullshit. And this weird curse thing of Native Americans apparently being all werewolves or sexy wolf beast men.
Taylor Lautner isn't even indigenous, for God's sakes. He's just brown white guy.
Man's Italian. And we're not even going to get into the pretend Indian aspect of that. But the main focus being, one, she always wrote the werewolf characters more in an animalistic sense. Reservation characters were seen as dumbed down or aggressive. And who can forget the fact that she made Jacob, the main werewolf boy, and the main character who isn't, well, one of the main characters of the trio, who's, let's be honest, that the man is played hella dirty, a pedophile because he imprints on his ex-love interest's daughter when she's holding her as a newborn. Did the mic peak? Yes, I apologize. Let's not ever forget that. And for the Twilight Sands,
never forget, never forgive.
Y'all really thought this was romantic. Don't even try to say like, oh, but she ages different. No, man saw a toddler and was like, I'm gonna bang that. And a reminder: the Mormons' church long history with indigenous peoples, especially in the Southwest, should be studied a lot more and acknowledged more. But we're not going to do that in this video because we don't want to go over an hour. The second most recent example, of course, we have to acknowledge, is for some reason the dearly beloved, I say in quotation marks, J.K. Rowling, for some reason thinking that Native Americans can do, what did she call it, herbology or something, and turn into werewolves. Because, of course, we could turn into werewolves. And apparently we're not too smart to do magic. Wow. Let's not even go into that diatribe.
She doesn't even think we can use wands. Hello, we have staves for a reason. And for the white British woman to say anything about our culture without doing a single day's worth of real research or even talking to any real Native Americans or consultants of any kind, I'm like, lady, no wonder so many people hate you. I mean, sure, like the turf stuff didn't help, but man.
Bro, Roman's racist. Look at her friends, bro. We all knew from the start. It's just that no one wanted to acknowledge it because she wrote Harry Potter. But let's not go there. But it does say something of the fact that this woman, who, mind you, she is wealthy at this point and she is educated in some regards, especially to mythology. The fact that it has seeped into the unconscious collective mind that Native American is connected to werewolf because bow wow and savagery, to the point that some random British woman who wrote a book about a kid who lived under staircases and had a magic little wand and a couple of friends who apparently defeated the Dark Lord, which was an allegory for Nazism, even though the woman who writes it herself is a TERF and many other things.
And associates with neo-Nazis.
And associates with neo-Nazis now. Ironic. But it does say something with it, like, someone of that caliber has done some, like, connects indigenous people to werewolves. It has seeped into that level and part of the cultural mindset to an uncomfortable degree.
Yeah, and like I both love and kind of hate how this comic contributes to that, but
we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
So, skinwalkers. For anyone who doesn't know, we're going to refer to them as SW in order to save ourselves because in my time zone, the sun is dimming now. SWs, well, in short terms for the non-Indigenous people who might be listening to this, basically, as the name on the cookie tin suggests, they are shapeshifters. We'll go with that. And oftentimes there are many oral histories and stories of SWs taking on the form of a coyote, or in white man's terms, a wolf, right? They have a long history within the community, especially in Southwest tribes such as the Navajo and Hopi, for being kind of big sus. They're not good people. At least that's what we're told. No one really knows how they come about or how they're able to transform into other people or animals.
Because that's bad medicine and you don't mess with that.
Because that's bad medicine. You don't mess with that. Yes. But there has to be said something about the connection of the werewolf and the SW in terms of shapeshifting, and the fact both do take the form of like a canine beast, which I hate to think that those stories contributed to the werewolf and indigenous savage connection thing. But when hasn't our culture been taken away from us and adapted to something else?
Misappropriated, co-opted, misrepresented, butchered.
Yeah. So I guess that transitions now to the main topic of this video.
Yes, the actual comic itself. So long story short, let's start off talking about the art. So for me at least, I felt like the art was pretty standard as far as Marvel comics go. I mean, no offense to the penciler Scott Hanna, but I kind of would have preferred it if he had leaned more into the horror aesthetic, especially since like some of the like variant covers for the series like really do. Even the one by Jeffrey for the first issue with like the indigenous style art and just like the angry werewolf face. Like that would be so cool if we got that in the interior art. But I mean, overall, like it looks cool, and like some of the double page spreads are just so awesome to look at. Like I think a highlight of mine would be the one where Jake thinks back to his own father, and you see the two wolves, the red wolf and the gray wolf, facing off side of him. Like that kind of like imagery of the internal struggle he has going on. That was pretty cool.
I do like the attention to details that we get on each page spread. Like, I know it's little things, like actually showing where Jake's braid is at constantly, or the fact that even in his werewolf form, like we still get his little braid like blowing in the wind and like swishing around with him, and that's a small thing I do like. Or the fact that, and when you see like when they're either on the res or like in his grandmother's house, like there's little things in the background that makes it clearly obvious this is a res house, like an indigenous household. Though I do have to say, in the comic, if they mention like, oh, he's an emo kid, right? But bro, his fits are not emo. His fits is a 16, like 17-year-old res kid who just got off the quarterback. So like, bro, tell me why this man is wearing a t-shirt hoodie with a buffalo on it. I'm not passing that up, man. Be like, I'm emo. Be like, bro, you're wearing red and yellow.
I don't know. Maybe he's like emo for like a res kid.
Well, I mean, that could also date back to the fact that, like, let's be honest, the author himself is kind of a more older generation of indigenous. So he's not going to be in tune exactly with what current teenagers are wearing, as is the artist themselves.
Well, apparently, Taboo based a lot of Jake Gomez on himself. I mean, like, they're both half Mexican, half Native American. I'm not sure if Taboo is from the Hopi tribe, like Jake is, but that's pretty cool detail.
And I appreciate the fact that it was the Hopi tribe highlighted in this, because oftentimes you only see like Comanche or Cherokee or occasionally the Navajo, which, even though we are Navajo, bro, I'm tired of us being in cowboys and Indians or talking about code breakers. No offense to the elders who have given their lives for this country. We appreciate you and we thank you for your service. But it's ridiculous that Hollywood keeps bastardizing your narratives and stories that should be done respectfully.
As far as I can tell, like the only like big like screen presence for code talkers I've ever gotten was that Nicolas Cage movie with Adam Beach, who isn't Navajo but is at least native, and he had the decency to ask permission from the Navajo Nation.
Also, I will mention this one fit again as a detail for the comics. As the man is like climbing out of the pit where like man was fighting for his life, man was wearing basketball shorts.
Well,
It's little details like that that makes me be like, yeah, this is indigenous.
Well, it's kind of like what the Hulk said. Like, when you can transform into a big monster, your best friend is going to be spandex, or at least really stretchy pants.
Man was shooting some hoops before stuff was going down. You can't convince me otherwise.
Oh, I'd love to see Jake be playing with some res ball as a werewolf. That'd be so funny. like Teen Wolf.
And I bet you he does. Okay. Also, another thing, the fact that they did acknowledge, like, at the very start of this, like, people coming onto the res and, like, the tension between townsies and res people and, like, the abuse.
Okay. Wait. All right. So, do you have anything else to say about the art before we actually get to reviewing the story itself?
I like the color palette. I can't explain why, but whenever they have, like, a sunrise or a sunset scene, it do be hitting different. It do, in fact, be hitting different.
Delicious. Yes. Oh, by the way, I just want to say, Red Wolf does show up in this comic, and I actually prefer this design over his previous iterations. I mean, I don't want to like disrespect any of Marvel's other artists, but I gotta say, like, the way Red Wolf has been depicted in the past, I mean, I understand that technically he's like our version of Captain America, where he's one of our ancestors who basically fell into the present time, but the way he's been portrayed with the fur and the buckskin and the cowboy outfits, I mean, clearly
it's giving race character.
Yes.
Let's call it how it is.
Yeah. But I mean, hooray. It took a while, but they finally got a native writer to handle the character properly, or at least aesthetically anyways. Mm-hmm. So now to that main story of this 4-issue miniseries. What did you think?
Okay. I like the topics that he did address, like people coming onto the reservation and disrespecting the land and the sovereignty, indigenous youths trying to fight back and defend their culture and their homeland. Of course, the complicated relationship between wanting to honor our history and our heritage, but also having to adapt to the fact we are surrounded by a Western society that does look down on our culture. I mean, just in like, okay, life from pharmaceutical, I can't pronounce this. The corporation who's like built overseeing the literal reservation, like towering over it. It almost feels like a vulture's nest. Jake's just cleaning toilets just to help make a living and save up money for college, hopefully one day, or like even
It's a summer
getting.
job.
Yeah, it's a summer job, or even just to save up some money to buy some more dance wear for our competitions.
Oh yeah, like that was another detail that broke my heart. The fact that it was his dad who sold their family's like traditional dancing clothes.
And then to flip the page and get hit in the face with "You'll be fine. You natives are made of sturdier stock than the rest of us." Literally having to clean up the white man's mess. Well, like the white workers are able to have like hazmat suits and everything. Meanwhile, they're like, yeah, your t-shirt uniform will be fine.
Like I don't know if that was a reference or not, but the uranium mines that the Navajo miners had worked through, and what the terrible unsafe conditions and all the cancer that came about because of that.
God, it blows. Also, it is very interesting seeing the dynamics of like the two indigenous focal centered women in this comic. So one, of course, being the will they won't they, oh there definitely will be, Jake's childhood friend and girlfriend. By the way, side note, I love her character design. Like when he was like, I'm just an emo kid, I'm like, no, she's got this down pat. The leather jacket, the half shaved head with the buzz cut, bro. The dyed hair, I love that. I love the contrast between their character designs and also like their story elements, where it's like Jake is clearly much a traditionalist, right? You know, keeps the braid, he's doing his dances, he is trying to be protector for the res, while she's oh goodness, wait, what's her name? I'm sorry. I got like 7 different thoughts running through my head.
She's also kind of like the brains of the operation because like her and the grandmother were the ones who helped Jake like train and learn how to control his lycanthropy.
Oh, like his
werewolf.
power. The fact that like she's rolling out here, be like, bro, you're on tribal land, and then her man's comes up behind her and be like, oh yeah, thanks, babe. Let's fuck these guys up. I love that. I love her character design, and I love the fact that like clearly she is alt scene, right? But she is still very much in tune with her indigenous roots, and that's prevalent in both like her character design, but also the way that she carries herself. I love the fact that they weren't shy to show like an indigenous kind of militant character, because that is a reality, especially on the res. You know, like her looking down at processed foods, but also still like keeping on that traditional of like, oh, listen to your grandma, listen to me. The fact that like women do carry a more spiritual significance in indigenous culture, especially in the Southwest tribes, and the fact that we see that with him like thinking about his grandmother and like a leadership role in the family, and the fact that it is the woman who he's in love with that keeps him grounded. It's small things like that that I feel like honor the culture a bit more. And it's not done in like the Western lines where it's like, of course, it's like Aunt May and Mary Jane. It's like, no. Grandma has no qualms with telling them both to shut the hell up. And his girl is just, well, I don't even want to call her his girl. Let's be honest. She's got him on the leash. Let's be honest. Physically and metaphysically. Actually being the one who's like encouraged him to do more and be more, not for her, but for himself and for their people, which honestly, it really does hit different. Power couple. We love that. Though I of course do have some issues with that. I wish they were more involved in the story. But I also just understand like this is a one issue. They need to have made more. Would have been able to flesh out definitely more of their dynamics. What do you think?
Oh, as far as like my reaction goes, I liked the little like pop culture references they threw in to like some of the Black Eyed Peas songs, like Pump It Up, and the fact that he has earbuds in his head as a werewolf that he has to get himself hyped up and low down where he needs to transform into and out of the werewolf. And I like as far as theming goes that they touched on the missing, murdered Indigenous women and men aspect of it, with people who started going missing and just straight up got kidnapped or like pharmaceuticals. And I am so grateful for the happy ending in the end, because it would have been so easy to like killed off so many of these tribal people, and it would have been easy to turn Granny into Aunt May at the end, but they survived. They actually made it.
They did. Oh, my God. My heart also broke when I realized like the creatures that he was fighting against and that were kidnapping the indigenous like teenagers and people from the res were indigenous like res people who got taken and transformed before. But I'm so glad that they were able to come out at the end of it, and they're gonna get help, and they're gonna get help within their community, and that means something.
Yeah, I appreciated that so much.
Though I do have mixed feelings about kind of like the tech versus natural kind of debate within it. And I understand why he did it. You know, like indigenous people were supposed to have a very deep connection with the land and more of appreciating Mother Earth and like the creator and what they've given us. But I do hold some reservations about that because we've seen it so many times before, especially like fear of technology. Tech can bring the manipulation and the downfall of our people and our culture, but technology can and has uplifted us, especially in regard to like communication. Social media has opened a gateway for a lot of indigenous people to be able to reach out and connect and develop communities that go beyond just reservation borders. Not to mention, it has given us opportunities to go out into the world and bring the change that we want to see. You know, the fact that we just recently got the first indigenous astronaut who's also a woman who's going to be a captain of the next flight, or indigenous environmentalists who are using their beliefs in order to help develop technology and studies to help the environment because they care about their homeland and they care about their communities. But at the same time, I do confess it was kind of cool going up against a big pharmaceutical company that was profiting off our literal blood and graves in order to beat up people, because it does remind me of multiple companies that have profited off our deaths. Never forget that Nestle poisoned indigenous women in Nicaragua, or the fact that the U.S. military was blowing up Hawaii, built multiple military bases on indigenous land, and just Guam, just the entire Guam's history and existence because of U.S. influence and tech. It really is hard out here. And I do wish that we could see more stories to tackle such topics and issues. But again, we only got one.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest criticism is the fact that like it is a mini series and it's just so short. Like clearly there's a lot of stuff we want to get into, but they only have 4 issues to work with. I just want more. Seriously, like I wish we just had more, and that there's just a mini series. Maybe this was actually like an ongoing comic, but it's more than what we had before it was published at least. So okay. I'll take the W. I'll take the W.
I'll take the W. And of course, it's getting the Disney movies.
Oh no! Like I watched that. The one they went with was the original Jack Russell character. I mean, it's at least portrayed by a Hispanic man, but it's not Jake, unfortunately.
They'll never give us Jake.
I mean, they're getting Ironheart. Like, I don't know, give it like a decade or so, and hey, they'll probably say, let's go with the younger version.
Again, we have indigenous people. We have to support indigenous creators, but we also got to share indigenous creations, because if not, no one's going to pay attention.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, if anyone is interested in reading this comic, it's a short but fun read. So I'll include links where you can buy it in the description below. And before we go, I just want to give our condolences, our respect to 2 very influential indigenous people who recently passed this month. First off was Jeff Barnaby, man, who gifted us with terrific films that he directed, including Rhymes for Young Fools and one of my personal favorites, Blood Quantum. Terrific horror movie. Check out our review, and if you can, check out the actual film itself, perfect for the Halloween season, as well as Sachin Littlefeather, famous for the speech she gave at the Oscars on behalf of Marlon Brando and her dedication to fighting for indigenous civil rights. So rest in peace, happy Halloween, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.